Hello and welcome to Interabang Chats. Today I'm really pleased to have Chelsea G. Summers with us, and she's going to be talking to us about her debut novel, A Certain Hunger, which is being released by Unnamed Press on December 1st. Welcome, Chelsea.
Hey, it's really great to be here. Thanks so much.
Really great to see you too. Um, I guess to get started with this book, it's kind of a fast speed train. I couldn't stop turning the pages, but to set it up a little bit for our viewers, the book starts out with a meeting at a bar, the Nomad Bar in New York, which I've been to many times. So it was kind of cool for that to pop up. And a kind of a hookup.
Yep.
What we could think of just in the first couple pages is like maybe a one night stand kind of thing. But
Yep.
we soon learn that really what's happening here is the narrator, Dorothy, is telling us her story from prison,
Correct.
where she's serving a life sentence. And she is pretty upfront initially that she's serving a life sentence and she's a psychopath and she murdered a handful of former lovers. And so I wanted to ask you a little bit about your inspiration for the book.
Um, yeah, so I was sent by my company that I was working for at the time in 2011 to go and live in Italy. And before I went, one of my Facebook friends was like, "Oh, you can write Eat, Pray, Love," and I was like, "Yeah, I'll write Love, Pray, Eat." And then I had my heart broken in Italy, as one does. And I went back a few months later and was in this 17th century Tuscan villa, like basically in the middle of nowhere, in the dark, with nothing around me and nobody to speak to. And I was like, actually, that's not a bad idea. So I decided to start writing about eviscerating this guy. And it from there it kind of spun out into what I've always termed as the elevator pitch is Eat, Pray, Love meets American Psycho.
I think that's a great elevator pitch. Dorothy's a food critic, and the descriptions of gourmet food here are just absolutely most of the time mouth-watering. We'll get to the parts that aren't I didn't find quite as mouth-watering in a little bit, but I wondered, have you done food criticism yourself? Are you a
No.
chef?
So my company that I was working for from Italy is a wine company. So I was spending a lot of time writing about wine. Um, and I had a background in writing about sex. And I really, really enjoy the challenge of crossing that synaptic divide between physical experience and language. Um, and so when I got into writing the book, and I realized, oh, she's a food critic, because of course she is. I just went with it. It was a it was kind of a glossary that I was already familiar with from my day job, and I just kind of did a bunch of research into food writing. I'd already been a huge fan of MFK Fisher, and I read a few other like food writer books. I read Gail Green's and I read Ruth Reichel's and I read a lot of columns. Um, and I just kind of got into that mode of like, all right, well, how would this person describe this experience in a way that felt both enticing and faintly ferocious? Like it was always important to me that everything always has everything that she describes always has a tiny bit of an edge.
I
sometimes
cer-
more than a tiny bit.
I certainly felt that. So did you prepare any of the dishes?
No, I'm not that good a cook.
Okay. Yeah, they
I'm
were
not
quite,
I
the processes of making the dishes, and I don't know, the succulence of it, just really kind of, the book overall is very sensory, I think. And for me, Dorothy, above all, was kind of a sensualist. She kind of has this hedonistic um, gluttony about her,
Yeah,
with food, with sex.
yeah,
It's kind of this needy consumption, and it evolves to a point where I don't think I'm giving too much away to say it, because it is revealed in the book pretty early that um, these guys that she kills, she takes parts of their body and prepares them and eats them.
yep,
Um, so she's kind of a modern day cannibal, and I think, as she explains from her jail cell, she's like just so attractive to all of these psychiatrists and psychologists that are trying to kind of figure out, like, what is a female psychopath.
right. And of course they don't know she's a cannibal. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was I I agree. Like I one of my favorite books that very much stuck with me from when I first read it, and I think the 80s, was Patrick Susskind's Perfume.
Yes.
And I really loved the uh, delight that he takes in rolling around in these physical experiences, and you know, like the way that sometimes something smells bad and you can't stop smelling it because it's just that, you know, weird. um that that I want, like, I really was struck by that, and I took inspiration from it, and I wanted to bring that to a certain hunger. So yeah, it's very much about consumption. And when I first started writing the book, I had no idea that what I was doing was writing a satire. um it wasn't like I was like, yes, I want to take American consumerism and foodieism and gender and, you know, put it all into a blender and turn it into. I really didn't have any clue of what I had written until I had finished it. And shortly after finishing it, I was like, oh, it's a satire. Cool, now I know how to revise it. You know. um but yeah, like the idea of what are you doing in a love affair, when the affair is over, how do you process it, how do you live with it, how do you sit with it, you know, as a person. I've always been troubled with having these, you know, like you uh, about the ends of my relationships. Like, I'm in a relationship with somebody, I'm really intimate with them, we share things that, you know, I don't share with anybody else, and then all of a sudden we break up, and it's like, oh, well, okay, so what was that, you know, what do I do with it, how do I deal with these feelings. And the book was very much motivated by that particular flavor of loss.
Yeah, and Dorothy's motivations are kind of complex, because it she does target these guys that she has had love affairs with, and it's a very premeditated premeditated murder and cannibalism, of course. But there's also, I thought that you did a good job of kind of showing some of her vulnerabilities as well. And when you said that the book is a satire, I was thinking about that earlier this morning, and thinking that in some ways the book is so over the top, because Dorothy is just like so all consuming in her appetites for
Yeah.
men and for food, but it never.
Power and knowledge and, and control and, just sort of and experiences and travel and, yeah, I mean, she's like a spider.
She's like, yeah, she's like an experienced junkie in a way,
Yeah. Yeah.
but the book never reaches a level of parody, I didn't think, and so that kind of like you really feel like, wow, this is, this is happening. You're kind of like inside Dorothy's mixed up head and her own little world and kind of her need. I don't know. Would you say it's revenge against these guys that she's
Um,
after?
I don't really think it's I don't think it's revenge. I mean, and at one point working with one of the editors on the book, he suggested that, and I'm not going to give away the plot point, but there was a very clear revenge motive for her to get into the whole thing. And I was like, no, that doesn't work for me because it's not about revenge. Um, it's about rage, like being really, really angry and not really having a place to put that anger. And it's about growing older and not wanting to be in alone, like wanting to be a single woman but not wanting to be alone. So I think that for her it was, like as I was writing it, the things that were important to me was that, she has a sense of like, all right, now they are with me on my terms. And these men, these experiences, this love, this thing that she did is never going to leave because it's there, you know it's part of her body. It's part of, it's not just part of who she is, it's literally part of her body. And so I don't think it really was revenge, even though she was angry at all of them. I think she's more rage filled at the world, the constraints of being a woman, the she's angry at aging, she's angry at, her work, she's angry at sort of um the various uh pain that comes with being an aging human, particularly an aging woman in, American culture in the 2000s.
Well, speaking of age, I don't think that you'll mind. We're both in our 50s, you and
Yep.
I. And I got the sense that Dorothy is middle aged as well.
Yep, she is. She talks about her birthday. Yeah.
And I loved all of the references of her childhood because it brought back so many things for me. The blue mascara, the Bonnie Bell lip smackers, Love's Baby Soft. It was all it was all just kind of like a fun trip down memory lane. And I'm a
Candy shoes. Yeah.
yes, exactly.
Sheerland bomber jacket. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was really a fun part of the book for me, and um, I think that probably a lot of women our age can relate to this kind of I don't know, this built up frustration that really doesn't feel like it has an outlet, just in terms of what society um, wants us to be, what our aspirations are. And Dorothy herself doesn't have an a very, I wouldn't say smooth or easy way of it during the course of her career. She's got jobs with, when print is big, she's got great paying jobs and columns and big glossy, beautiful magazines. But then, just like happened in the 90s and into the 2000s, those kind of opportunities start going away for her as well.
Right.
Um, One of the things that I wanted to ask you about was, so she's got this like huge appetite, but the story that the book starts out with is this hookup with a guy named Casimir at the Nomad Hotel in New York City. And that kind of ends up being her Achilles heel. And she
Yeah,
kind of, in jail, she's thinking, a little bit of, I don't even know why I did that, because he wasn't like all the others. And she
right,
doesn't really feel a sense of satisfaction after killing him the way she did with the others.
right.
And do you think that she kind of comes with a reckoning of herself and her motives with
I
that?
mean, part of the journey of the book, and part of the reason why I structured it as I did, where, you know, begins with a later murder, and then the next chapter, she's in prison. And so, like, from the very beginning, that she's been caught, how long her sentence is, where she's writing from. Was that I I was like I was really into true crime and crime novels. And I was really frustrated with the formula, the ways that stories get told, how, if it's focused on the law enforcement, it becomes this, like, you know a story of justice. If it's focused on the criminal, then it's like, generally this wily, like the Hannibal Lecter, who's so good at everything all the time, he's basically flawless. And I really wanted to write a story that uh shows somebody who's deeply human and frequently messes up in her crimes, and things don't really go particularly well. She's not a great criminal, but she still gets away with it mostly. And so I wanted to have a structure explain that would allow her to explain why she got caught. Because if she's not in prison, why would she write this memoir? And then also to sort of unpack, undo, and interrogate the kinds of ways that most crime narratives get told.
Yeah. Um, and I think I felt that you achieved that. I mean, Dorothy never comes across as kind of like, the pathetic, remorseful criminal.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, you asked, I'm sorry, you asked a little bit about her personal growth, and, like, she can't be trusted, obviously. I mean, she's somebody who lies all the time. She's an untrustworthy narrator, and you know that from the beginning. Um, but I do think that there is a sense of personal growth throughout the trajectory of the book. And, like, I don't want to get into the ending, but I do. And I wouldn't say she's like, like, she has no come to Jesus moment. And she never will, but I do think that there's a sense of, like, um shifting in her worldview. I don't know if it's a reckoning, but I would say there's a kind of a acceptance, maybe, and shifting.
so Dorothy doesn't have very many female friends.
Yeah.
She likes to hang out with guys mostly.
Yeah.
But she does kind of have this, what starts out as a kind of bad college roommate,
Yeah, frenemy.
Emma, exactly. And then they meet up again after college and actually become um, friends. And I don't want to give anything. Emma becomes a very important character towards the end of the book, and I don't want to give anything away. But did you kind of how did you kind of construct or create that kind of friendship where they don't really get along at first, but then they kind of like come back to each other and kind of grow to lean on each other a little bit?
Yeah, I really like Emma Absinthe a lot. She was to me like the moral center of the book. And I don't think she intended it. She, like she wouldn't consider herself that. But as I was writing her story, that was the thing that was important to me. Um, like she was strongly influenced by a friend of mine who's an artist. And actually two friends of mine who are artists. And I I don't I like the doubling of Dorothy and Emma. They're sort of like they are each other's uh, kind of soulmate in a strange kind of way. And the my discovery of Emma, so I'm like, there are writers who are architects and plan everything out, and there are writers who just sort of sit down and like, all right, here's the thing I want to write. Like, I don't know what it is. This book came to me that way. Like, I had no real clue other than a couple of early on images, a couple of scenes that I knew that I wanted, where I had no idea what it was going to be. And so when Emma all of a sudden appeared to me, I was like, oh, that's cool, nice, all right, groovy, I'm going to run with this. um, and their friendship is something that I took a tremendous amount of delight in writing, as well as experiencing as I was writing it and editing it. And um so yeah, did that answer your question?
Yeah. Well, and Emma evolves into adulthood in a very interesting way. I mean, when they're roommates, Dorothy really can't stand her. She I think there's a line in there about she's always in Jessica McClintock gunny sack dresses,
Yeah.
which was
Yeah.
another flashback for me. And Dorothy like borrows her blue mascara, and Emma finally like just leaves. She can't stand Dorothy, and she moves across campus. And but then the next time Dorothy sees her, she's like in the middle of this kind of artistic kind of protest thing, and she's dressed all in black, and she's like kind of totally transformed herself into something very different than she was in college. And it I don't know, it kind of reminded me of some people that I knew that like you're so surprised how they end up, like when you go to like a high school reunion or something, or a college reunion. It's like, wow, you like are nothing like you were when I knew you when you were 20-year-old.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty easy. Like when you get to know somebody, or you get to, experience a figure as, like who's already a grown up adult, you kind of assume that they've always been that way, that that's who they were, and even though we know as individuals, like actually I have this journey that I've been through, and I've been all these different people, and this is how my life has sort of panned out. A lot of times we don't really recognize that in other people. So yeah, I was really interested in having a character who created herself. Like Emma's an artist, and probably her best and biggest creation is her own life.
The book is exciting and scintillating, but one of the things that impressed me the most was the writing. The writing is just phenomenal. And if you don't mind, I'm gonna just I just picked out two quotes here that I found. I don't know. They just struck me as really great descriptions. This one is about baked Alaska, which was also a flashback for me because everyone wanted to have their party where I grew up, their birthday party at this place that served baked Alaska. So it was a big deal. And about the Bake Alaska, which Dorothy thinks that she really wants for her birthday. And her mom, by the way, is a phenomenal cook all growing up, and everything is from scratch. And then Dorothy, for I guess maybe her 16th birthday, I can't remember which exactly, finally, decides No, I want to do what everyone else is doing. I want the baked Alaska.
9. She's 9.
9, okay, a
Yeah,
lot
she's
younger
young.
than
Yeah.
16, actually. Okay, so about baked Alaska, Dorothy said, "It holds all of the charm of a lounge singer. It's obvious, pandering, and one note," which I thought was a wonderful quote. And then the second that I liked really a lot was, this is while she's conducting a murder with a knife. And she says, "It was a clean, sharp blade. It made Dorothy Parker's wit look dull." And just like those kinds of turns of phrase throughout the book, there are so many. I thought just really brought a lot of it just made the book kind of feel chewy to me. Like there was a lot of action going on and a lot of adrenaline, but then there were these just like observant moments that were so well described and so fully described that um, I just thought the writing was really wonderful. And I wondered whether you had
Thank you.
any, um, I don't know, who are your kind of inspiration or models for your writing?
Um, as I mentioned before, MFK Fisher, um, Angela Carter is one of my all-time favorite writers. I love her prose. Um, when I was writing Dorothy, I thought a lot about Humbert Humbert. I really thought a lot about that kind of untrustworthy, uh, sophisticated, um, and and kind of troubled. Uh, it's almost like the language is compensating for the stuff that they don't want to, reveal about themselves. Um, so I guess yeah, I would say that those, and then secondarily, like when I was really trying to nail Dorothy's voice, Gail Green's memoir, because it's just so freaking chatty. And then I read American Psycho, Bret Easton Ellis very early on in the whole process because I wanted to get a sense of, like, you know pacing and the violence, the gore. So I guess those would be the influences.
So this is your debut novel. Was it kind of the first novel that you tried to write, or have there been other novels in the desk?
Oh yeah, no, there was another one that I started writing and kind of abandoned. I did some work on a friend's memoir. I did like editing work, and um, she is a massive workaholic, and just powers through and has, just this unshakable, admirable faith in herself. And I read her, like I worked on the memoir, and so I read it a few times. And when I finished it, I'm like, you know what? I just need to finish. I was like, I have to write that. I have to write my novel. Like, I just have to finish it. So like I got off the memoir train, and I was just like, yep, gotta take this momentum and take this work ethic and just do it. Because if I don't do it now, when am I gonna do it? And so it was just a force of will, like just sitting at my desk, in my bed, at my table, writing at night, on weekends, during my, 2-week vacation from my job. And then it was a long slog in finding representation. And then there were a couple of years where when it didn't sell, and I don't know, like 25, 30 rejections. And yeah, so it was a long haul. I think I started it in 2011. I finished the first draft in 2014. I got representation in 2015, and then the audiobook Audible bought it as an original um, first, and that came out in October of last year, and then the book comes out now. So it was a long, arduous, many passes of edits, and I was like, when I finally got the final manuscript, I was just like, I cannot believe I have to read this thing again. But then I, but then I actually really enjoyed it, and I was like, all right, this is cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, so like I'd always wanted to write a book. I had started writing a novel that I didn't finish. Maybe I will. And at this point, it's just on to the next one.
And did you read the audio version of the book? Is it your
I
voice?
didn't. I didn't. It was Hillary Hubert, who is amazing and actually speaks Italian when I don't. And, she's fantastic. So I have every joy in listening to her read it.
I'm interested in listening to the audiobook now. I think that would
Yeah,
be
she's great.
a different experience. So, you're joining me today from outside of Stockholm, Sweden, and it's not the best time in the history of the world to be coming out with a novel. And I just wanted to get a perspective from you of, how are things in Sweden, and how are they dealing with COVID?
It's not awesome. Like only recently, like, and by recently I mean within the last week and a half, have people really started to adopt wearing masks. The major drugstore chains have sold out. They sold 700,000 masks in the last couple of weeks. Um, but the Swedish government is taking the sort of herd immunity strategy, which is useless. So yeah, I don't really go anywhere. I don't really see anyone. I try to do my grocery shop. My husband and I do our grocery shopping, once a week. It's like it's not ideal, but at least I have state sponsored healthcare.
And like, are bookstores open in Stockholm? Do
Yeah,
you?
everything's open,
Oh,
like restaurants are still open. So for me, it's hard, like it's hard having my gory angel baby of a novel hitting shelves and I can't see it. I can't touch it. I can't, like see people pick it up and be like, so maybe you want to buy this book. I don't know. I can't talk to, I can't go into stores and talk to booksellers. So I very much appreciate this conversation. Launching it is challenging. I have two events for the launch. I'm going to be staying up till 1 in the morning Stockholm time trying to be articulate about my book, you know um because that's how Zoom works. Yeah, so it's like on the one hand, at least people are reading more now. On the other hand, it's a grieving, terrifying, weird, alienating time for everyone. And here we are.
yeah. Yeah, well, I'm going to email you some photographs of
Okay.
people buying your book in our store and the chat that we're going to have. And I really thank you for joining me today. And I had the opportunity to read the advance reader's copy of the book probably 6 months ago, and it just knocked my socks off. I don't think I've ever read anything quite like it, and it's a very accomplished work. So congratulations.
Thank you very much. That means a lot to me. I mean, it's such a weird book. Um, it was a book I wanted to read. Like, the advice of like write the book that you want to read. This is the book that I desperately wanted to read. And so I'm glad to know that there are other people that it's resonating with.
It certainly did. Well, thank you, Chelsea. Good luck to you. Good luck
Thank
with the book and stay safe.
thank you. You too.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.